Good morning, everybody. Well, it's morning where I am. It's around 7 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday, and today is the 14th of November. Can you believe it? A couple of updates in the Chad and Lori Daybell case, some interesting updates that have happened. But let's back up a minute to kind of set the stage to where we have been in the past as far as Chad and Lori communicating. You know, that's one of the number one questions I'm asked from you guys when you send me messages or when I'm out in public. Are Chad and Lori able to talk with each other? Have they communicated with each other? What are they saying to each other? A lot of good questions and a lot of interesting questions that people have, of course, as far as what communication they are allowed, if any. Let's rewind a little bit to the last known call. Actually, before that, we learned during Lori Vallow's trial that Chad and Lori were active texters. They were texting each other a lot, multiple phones involved, a lot of phone calls. Alex was involved with communicating, and Lori was an avid texter, and Chad was as well. That communication continued, but the interesting thing that I'd love to find out one day is after the police started investigating, after we went to Hawaii, what were those communications like? We didn't learn a lot about that during Lori's trial. Like, it would be fascinating to see what the text messages were like between January of 2020 until Lori was arrested at the beginning of March. What were they saying to each other, especially after this hit the news and people were talking about it? Were there texts like, oh no, the media's onto it? I don't know if there were. It'd be interesting if there was, and maybe one day we'll know. So they communicated a lot with each other. Lori gets arrested. She goes to jail. We know that there was a lot of communication when Lori was in jail. Chad was calling her often, and for a long time they would chat. There'd be religious chat. There would be long, lengthy phone calls, lovey-dovey type chat, you could say. So that was from March of 2020 until June of 2020, March, April, May. So 3 months along that time. And what then happened in June of 2020 is Chad Daybell was arrested. But before he was arrested, when the cops showed up to serve the warrant, he called Lori in the Madison County Jail. You remember that call? Here it is.
This is a call from and paid for by Lori, an inmate at Madison County Jail. This call is subject to recording and monitoring. If you don't wish to talk, hang up now. Thank you for using Telmate.
Hello?
Are you okay?
No, they're searching the property.
The house right now?
Yeah. One of them is. So, Mark means we'll be talking to you.
Okay. What, are they in the house?
No, they're out in the property.
Are they seizing stuff? Again?
They're searching. There's a search warrant, so we're going to extend this James. Logical. So we'll see what transpires.
What do we do? Pray.
What?
What do you want me to do?
Yeah, pray. Pray.
For you.
When was pretty calm. I would call Mark, maybe. Just talk with him.
Have you talked to him already?
I did call him, yes.
So he knows what they're doing?
Yeah. Okay. Call from somebody else I need to talk to. I love you so much.
I love you. Should I try to call you later?
I don't know. I don't know. We'll try, yeah. I'll answer if I can.
Okay.
I love you, and we'll talk soon.
Okay, baby. Love you.
Okay. Love you. Bye.
So that, as far as we know, is the last known call between just the two of them. Now, granted, she was in jail, so it was recorded, and the police were able to listen to that and monitor that. And of course, that call came out during Chad's preliminary hearing and during Lori's trial. So he's arrested. Well, Chad goes to the Fremont County Jail. They're in different jails. Chad has been there since June of 2020, so over 3 years. And there's a strict list of who he's allowed to talk to, at least according to his attorney. So it's not like you could call up and say, give me Chad Daybell, or I guess he could call you if he knew you. But, I mean, I've tried to talk to him and I can't get through. But I do know that he talks with his kids a lot still, and his parents and his attorney. That's about it. Lori, when she was in the Madison jail, she could not communicate with Chad. The inmates, especially co-conspirators, cannot talk with each other. And you'll remember that before the trial of Lori, John Pryor filed a motion. No, it wasn't John Pryor. It was Archibald. Lori's defense team filed a motion asking that Lori be able to talk with Chad for mediation purposes, to maybe get this thing settled. That was one of the reasons. To strategize, to come up with defenses and whatnot. And there was actually a hearing where this was discussed. The state objected, the prosecution objected and said, no, they don't need to communicate with each other. Defense counsel can do that if they want to talk with each other. And Lori's defense team said, we'll meet with a bailiff outside the door. We can, make sure the attorneys are present so Chad and Lori are never alone. Please, see if we can make this happen. Well, the judge denied that request, but I believe it was at that hearing that there was a break. And how it was situated in the courtroom is Chad Daybell was on the end of his table. John Pryor was next to him. There was a little gap. And then at the other table, it was Jim Archibald, Lori Vallow, and John Thomas. So there was some separation between Chad and Lori. Lori repeatedly looked over at Chad, but from what I observed, Chad never looked back, except during that break when the judge took a recess, all the attorneys went up to use the restroom or to chat with each other or whatever. I watched, and Chad and Lori looked at each other and were mouthing things to each other. I don't know what they were saying. Chad was smiling. She was smiling. They said a few words, and that was that. Now, as far as other communication, the judge denied the request. Lori goes to trial. She's found guilty. She's then moved from the Madison County Jail to the Department of Correction, to the Pocatello Women's Correctional Center. Whole new communication system than what the jail uses. Chad still remains there. The question are Chad and Lori now allowed to talk with each other? Are they allowed to write letters to each other? I don't think that they could call each other. From what I understand, Lori is not talking a lot on the phone with people. But that's the question that, according to a new motion filed yesterday, Monday, the state wants to know. This is what it said. On January 19th of 2023, a motion was heard. A motion was heard. So earlier this year, sorry, I was making sure that date was right. in Lori Vallow's case, requesting that the defendants be allowed to meet with their respective counsel for a strategy session. At the time the motion was heard, the cases were still joined for trial, so all parties were heard on the motion. The court denied the motion, finding it would be only applicable for mediation, which was not occurring, concerns about the potential for the defense attorneys to become witnesses, and security of the parties. The court did not specifically enter any order restricting or prohibiting communication between the defendants at the time. So it's not like, Judge Boyce said they couldn't meet, but it's not like he said, you cannot talk with each other. There was no specific order. The state is unaware of any additional orders or order put in place by this court addressing the defendants' contact with each other or restrictions regarding that contact. Since the entry of the order on the co-defendant's motion for a joint strategy session, Vallow Daybell has been found guilty of all charges. At the time of her sentencing, the court transferred her to the Department of Corrections and in so doing relinquished jurisdiction over her and her case. The state is now seeking an order finding and or clarifying that there are currently no restrictions in place by this court in the form of a no contact order or otherwise prohibiting contact between the defendant Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow Daybell. If such an order was in existence, the state would seek to clarify as to whether it would still be applicable to Vallow Daybell, since the court has relinquished jurisdiction over her and her case for most purposes, including the ability to restrict her contact with others. So they want to know, the state wants to know, is there an order right now that prohibits these two from talking with each other? Prohibiting them to talking with each other. And they want, if there is, they want clarification as far as what it means. All of this is being done in preparations for Chad's trial. Somebody asked me, does this mean they're going to call her as a witness to testify against him? I have no idea. That would be interesting if they did. But they just want to know, basically, can the two talk with each other? And that's what they're asking for. So it will be interesting to see how Judge Boyce responds to this. And like I said, I don't think there's a lot of communication between the two of them. I could be completely wrong. Maybe they're sending each other letters all the time. I don't know how the prison system filters those letters in and out. I know that they're all read. Everything's read, and they check for drugs or any sort of contraband or whatnot. Even, you've heard the stories about how in the old days, people would lick the stamps and put drugs on the stamp and put it on the envelope, and then they'd, eat the stamp or whatever. That still is a thing, from what I'm told. So that's the motion there. We'll see if they're communicating with each other. Wouldn't that be interesting if Lori is called as a witness? She didn't testify in her own trial. She didn't say anything in her own trial. The only time she spoke was when she gave that statement at her sentencing, when she said that Jesus is her friend and he knows her and he loves her, and that he's aware of her, and that Tammy Daybell was her good friend, and Tylee and JJ visit her. And so there's that. One other motion that was filed real quick. Interesting to me, I mean, probably not a big deal, but still, the state filed, I believe it was an 11-page motion to amend the indictment against Chad Daybell. And they asked for a couple of tweaks, like modify in one of the sections, it's modify month to months, plural. But in counts 1, 3, and 5 from defendants Chad Guy Daybell, Lori Noreen Vallow, and Alex Cox is what it currently says. They're asking that the amendment be, that the indictment be amended to and or Alex Cox. So it currently says the defendants are Chad, Lori, and Alex. They're asking to add the or. Chad, Lori, and or Alex Cox. Emphasis is added to reflect requested change, the and or. Will that become an issue at trial? Is it going to be an and or Alex? I mean, think about it. If you're the defense, you could point the finger at Alex. It was him, it was him, it was him, the co-defendant. It was him, it was him, it was him. He's dead. He can't defend himself. He did it all. And Lori did it all. And we're already seeing signs that Lori, they might be kind of turning on Lori, because the other day, John Pryor filed the motion saying she was far more culpable than Chad was. It was her, that because she didn't get the death penalty, Chad should not get the death penalty. And the culpability was a big issue in that. Well, now is it going to be pointed at Alex and the state's going to say, no, it's and or versus and? I don't know. That's the way I read it as an observer. You remember that the state at the last minute, kind of, when the trial was over, all the arguments were had, closing arguments had happened, closing statements, and they asked to make those amendments on Lori's indictment, and the defense objected, saying, here we are, we've gone this whole time, you've had a defense, you've had 5 attorneys looking at this thing, and you just caught this now. And the judge, you know, did say that it should have been, you know, taken care of earlier, but that didn't matter in the grand scheme of things. Still, though, it's a technical thing, and you have to pay attention to those. Okay, so what's next? Well, on the 29th, 2 weeks from today, right? 2 weeks from tomorrow, there's a hearing in Chad's case. They're going to talk about that culpability issue. They're going to talk about cameras in the courtroom. John Pryor wants them. We, of course, want them. The prosecution does not, but Judge Boyce is holding a hearing about that. We have requested a camera in that hearing that we can live stream or share with you after the fact if it's not live. And Judge Boyce has not responded to that yet, so we'll let you know when that comes down. That's the next hearing. There'll probably be a few other motions heard at that point. And then there's going to be another hearing on December 28th about this. Well, I think what's going to happen, and well, the judge has said this is going to happen. He's going to hold a monthly motions hearing that's just set on the calendar. So leading up to the trial, every month, there'll be a monthly hearing. We'll go, they'll talk about whatever motions have been filed within the past month. The judge will listen, he'll rule either there or in writing. And then it's just kind of a scheduling type of a thing. That's what they did leading up to Lori's trial. So you can plan on once a month that'll happen. You think about it, November, December, January, February, this trial is like 4.5 months away, and it's gonna go fast between now and then. And then that starts April 1st. That'll be 8 weeks. It's death penalty. Jury selection will take longer than Lori's, and the sentencing phase, if he is found guilty, will take longer than Lori's, because if he's found guilty, then there will actually be a penalty phase where there will be witnesses called and people will discuss the what type of sentence he should get, whether it's life in prison or death penalty or life. If he's found guilty, as it stands today, he will get one of the two. There won't be any other option. If he gets life in prison, he'll go to the Idaho Department of Correction men's facility and be there till the day he dies. If he gets the death penalty, he'll still go to that facility and be there till the day he dies. Knowing some of these cases, it takes just as long, 20, 30 years for death to be carried out. And that will be an issue, though, for the jury to decide if he's found guilty. And, of course, there's always the option. There could be a plea agreement struck between now and then. Could happen at the last minute, could happen next week. We'll see. I doubt it's happening next week. By all indications, everybody I've spoken with, there's no plea in sight at the moment. That's where we stand now. If you want to read the documents, we'll put a link that you can go check them out, the latest things that are filed. And thank you for watching. Have a good day.